Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Becoming Podcast. I'm Sunny, and I am here with my co host, Tammy. And today we have the honor of speaking with Marie Matthews from Marie Matthews Interiors from North Carolina. And so today we are going to have another Becoming story, talking to Marie about the experience she's had, also her introduction to Tammy and what that Becoming story looked like. So I'm going to go ahead and send it over to Tammy so we can get started with our intro to Miss Marie.
Thank you for joining us, Marie. Thank you, Sunny, for that intro. One of the things that we love to ask the guests are when I called and asked you to be on the show because I love your story, why did you say yes? What was the yes inside you?
Well, I tend to be a person that moves from a place of yes, unless I feel like there's a block, unless there's some reason not to. I kind of want to be open to new experiences, and I felt incredibly honored that you would ask me. A little bit touched that were in that place in our relationship that we had shared enough of each other's stories and had gotten intimate and authentic enough to share with one another. And so I was more than happy to be a guest.
Okay, so I don't want to cry, but that was beautiful. And so authentic. I have the urge to cry, audience, but it's I'm withholding. So I'm going to breathe it out. And so thank you for that. And I felt all of what you were saying deeply. So yeah, we're very happy that you had the great yes inside of you. And our curiosity peaks when we hear people say yes because they have a story inside of them. So tell us a little bit about the background behind your yes. And like, I have a story, I have a becoming story, and here's why.
We all have a story, right? And when we've been through any kind of trauma, which most of us have, I find I relate very little to people who say everything's been easy all of the time. I feel like there's not a lot more to go in the conversation when that's the case. But most people have a story, and it weaves in and out, and there's suffering, and there's highs, and there's lows, and it's like a piece of art. Sometimes we don't understand a piece of art until we know the backstory. And once we know why that piece is special or revolutionary or how blue pigment didn't exist before that piece of art, then we go, oh, I can appreciate something different that I could not before knowing the full story.
Great. So give us a little background then of your full story because
Oh,
you're a very successful businesswoman in Charlotte and sought after. When I met her, she was on the what's that? South Park, the magazine.
South Park and Southern Home
Yeah.
and Design
Yes.
and Decor all came knocking last year, which was such a blessing.
Yes. So there's a story there somehow.
There
And
is
where
a
does it start?
Yeah, it started in Santa Rosa, California, Northern California, which is wine country. For a lot of people, they think it's one of the most beautiful places on earth. But I did not come from any kind of privilege. Nobody in my family knew interior designers existed. Um, I was born to unlikely parents. My dad was born fully blind, Caucasian male, white European descent. He had been adopted and came from a really dysfunctional family, a lot of alcohol abuse, a lot of some family violence, that kind of thing. My mother was first generation. She was born in Hong Kong, came over on a boat when she was 4, and was the oldest of 7 children. She was 10 years older than her next sister. So she essentially raised her other 6 sisters. Her parents only wanted a boy because they were traditional Chinese and they had 7 girls. A lot of superstition and spiritualism and a true immigrant story. So my parents met in a car accident. My dad was not driving because he was blind. And there was a fender bender. They met, they exchanged information, they fell in love, and both sets of parents disowned them. Both sets of parents said, you're not to mix with somebody outside of your race. And 2 years later, I was born. They had met, they had married, they had met friends in deep faith. They'd become part of a church. I was born into a Christian home, but raised in extreme poverty. There was not always enough food. There were moves, there were evictions, there was fires, there was burglary, there was sexual abuse. There were all kinds of sort of these things in your childhood that can either break you down or you overcome.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So that's the background, and I think a lot of my inspiration for beauty and my quest to bring beauty into women's lives is based on where I was born in the beauty of Northern California. I just feel so lucky that I grew up around birds and bees and butterflies and botanicals and fruit and rolling hills and brown, big oak trees and California poppies and just all of that nature, I think, has really influenced my love of color and my love of bringing beauty as a healing force into women's lives.
Yeah, there's that word color again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things riding around with you and getting to know you through my design process was hearing the story about your mother. And I was like, I think it was in your car, and then you're like, yeah, and you were driving like, well, at 10, I think it was my
Mhm.
mother. And I'm like, lost
Yeah.
my bearings because it's such a powerful um, story. So do you feel
Yeah,
comfortable sharing that?
absolutely. So, because my dad didn't drive because he was blind, but he could see enough to ride a bicycle, who's a competitive athlete, triathlon, a decathlon, he'd swim in college, all of the things. But so we did a lot of bicycle riding. We did a lot of cycling. And when I was 9, we embarked on a 300-mile cycling trip. And we were 10 miles outside of the city center, and my mother passed out. She had a medical condition where if she overheated, she would break out into hives and she had to be in a cold bath or she would die. So she had taken off of her helmet so she wouldn't overheat. We'd eaten like a little snack of trail mix and we were riding up a low grade hill. And I was right behind her and I saw her bike weave and then she passed out. She hit the ground, blood came pouring out of her head. There were no cars around. It's very remote. It's wine country. Um, and we flagged down cars. One went by. There weren't a lot. The next one had a nurse in it, and the next one had somebody with a CB radio in it. They radioed for help, and the nurse said to me, like when your dad cuts himself shaving, there's kind of a lot of blood. Like, she's gonna be fine. She's gonna be fine. It just looks worse than it is. And they took her to the hospital. She had surgeries for 3 blood clots. She was in a coma for 34 days. On my 10th birthday, my dad said, your mother would not want to be kept alive. We've had this conversation. He used the term as a vegetable, which is something we don't say anymore, but that was the terminology he used. And he said, how would you feel about us taking her off of life support? And I said, well, I'm 9. I'm 10. Like, whatever you think is right. I don't know.
This was
Sure.
on your
That
birthday?
was on my birthday. It's on my birthday. And a few days later, they made the decision. And so, yeah, I had some profound sort of spiritual and energetic moments while she was in the hospital. I spent a lot of time there. And when she passed, I was at a friend's house swimming and I knew it. I felt it. And I felt this like overwhelming sense of not an audible voice of God, but as close as you can get of like, I have a plan for your life. You have a story ahead and it's going to be okay. I've got you. And then my dad comes and he tells me, and I was like, yeah, I know. Like, basically, I know. I got it. You know, and it was 2 years of me being alone with my dad, me being the immediate grown up because he was so incompetent as a parent. Um, and it was really hard. I hadn't really liked him before that, even. I was never close to him. I was a mommy's girl. I was shy, clung behind her skirts. Everything was about just like my safety with her. And then she was gone.
Mm.
Years later, my dad remarried, and I wasn't thrilled about it. And within months, was just like, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. And then, as years later, when I was an adult, and he had actually had an affair, cheated on her, left her, I was already married with a child. I think I had an infant, and she adopted me. And she did it under the ruse of, if something happens to me, it makes it easier to like distribute assets and all of that. But I knew it was very scary to me to lose another mother. So
Yes.
she is still my everything. So
Yes. Mm.
I recently met a client just last week who's lost a child, a daughter, at age 11. And just I have a daughter I'm obsessed with, and it's the most heartbreaking thing you can think of. And I told her I haven't lost a child, but I have lost a mother, been on the other side. And And you have two chances at that mother-daughter relationship, your own mother, and if you're a mother, then with your child, and there's redemption that's possible in it. So it's
Wow.
useful. All the stories are useful.
Yes, useful. And I'm imagining, and Sunny, we take turns with our questions. So just before I'm going to just make a comment and then I'll hand it over to Sunny. But one thing that I think is always helpful, which is one, I'm totally in awe of the whole story. I mean, I only know bits and pieces, but to hear that and to see you and to know your work in Charlotte, wow. Second is we often say that we don't know who's listening to this. It could be the woman that is our age and hearing it and saying, oh, yeah, I was that woman too. It could also be the 11-year-old girl who finds us on Spotify because
Mhm.
of our title. And she's going through it right now.
Yeah.
She's you at 10 or 11 or 12. What would you say to her?
So first I would hug her
Yeah.
real tight. And I only learned that that is what I have to do through therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And I would tell her it's gonna be okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be okay. You're gonna have to persist. You're gonna have to be resilient.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but surround yourself with people who want to love you and see you grow.
Mm-hmm. 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 Hugging is powerful. It releases the hormone that you need.
The bonding hormone.
Yeah, it releases that. I mean, it's not an accident that the smile and the hugging alchemizes. It doesn't make it go away, but it softens the chemical blow to the system
That's right.
because you're getting a massive chemical download. We mix science with the stories um, because we're MPH students, all of us right now. So we mix it, and that's how I usually can weave in anything with my audience, just because um, my prior life is very, very heavy science healthcare, and people like science because their brain sees that the kind of quantum story is not as believable, although it's in my world more believable than the research because direct experience cannot replace an algorithm.
It's so true. I was a philosophy major, so I double majored in business and then in philosophy theology, which were linked at Queen's University here in Charlotte. As an adult, I went back to school at 37. And one of my professors, my philosophy professor, we were studying Kierkegaard and he was asking about faith. And I said, when it comes right down to it, a belief in science takes just as much faith because when you get down to the nitty gritty, like the atoms and the like tiniest, like we think we have the answers, but we don't know that we have the answers to all of it. So really, it does take this leap of faith.
Mhm.
Um, and I think all of it is beneficial and useful and helpful.
Yes. My co-host.
Yeah, so another part of the story that we like to kind of discuss with our guest is what did survival look like for you after the passing of your mom? Because it sounds like you stepped into kind of an adult role. So there's going to be two parts of this question. So maybe you can kind of start thinking about it. Um, what did this survival look like? How did you kind of make it through your day to day? And then how do you feel like you finally were able to start reclaiming those bits of you that maybe you had to suppress because you need to just survive?
Sure. So I'm Gen X, so built for survival. Latchkey kid. Even when my mom was alive, I would go to school and then I would ride my bike she worked in the accounting department at the community college. And I would either ride around campus and get food from the vending machines while I waited for her. I'd go to her office and maybe she'd let me stamp checks or, do some little task right by her. Um, but it's that latchkey kid generation kind of thing is you just kind of fended for yourself for the most part. And then after she passed, the survival was really in that hierarchy of needs. It was a lot of it was just like what to eat, like roof over the head, what clothes to put on. Um, there was some life insurance money through her job, and my dad had spent it all within the first. She passed in August, and it was gone within a year, and we were about to be evicted. So just the physical survival needs were the first thing. And then when he remarried, suddenly my stepmom, she worked for Hewlett Packard in just a 9 to 5 job. And she told me that like 6 months after they got married, I said, "Are we rich?" Because I was so not used to just there being food in the pantry and like I had a bedroom and like all these things that we take for granted in our
Mhm.
regular kind of like middle class or upper middle class lives. Um, so then survival just became like, am I loved here? Do I belong? Does
Mm.
her extended family accept me? I'm not biological. I'm half Chinese. Like there was so much of that, even just back in the day of being California, there wasn't the type of racism that there is in the South because everybody's something different. Everybody's brown, everybody's black or Indian or Asian or what. Like there's just all a mix. So there's really wasn't the same level of racism you experience in the South. But there is that difference of like, oh, you're the girl with the dead mom and the blind dad, and you're an immigrant and you're at school on a scholarship, and like you're the poor kid, all of those kind of shame-based feelings. So it was a lot of overcoming that. And then I will say, moving out of survival, step by step has always been about forgiveness for me. Um, and when I know I've forgiven, whether it's my dad or somebody else who's been toxic in my life, I know I've forgiven them when my brain starts going to gratitude. So, like, I was in yoga yesterday and there was a prayer flag out the window that it said divine love, divine power, and I switched the word divine for God's love, God's power. And then I was like, oh wait, I'm going to take it a step further and I'm going to use the word Yahweh, which I don't usually use. It kind of came to me unexpectedly. I'm like, what does Yahweh make me feel? I'm like, well, for like the Israelites or the Jews, Yahweh is Father. It's like there's a more intimate component to it than just like a big God up in the sky. And then that made me think of my own dad. And I only have one baby. I only have one picture from my childhood with him. And I'm a baby and he's holding me up to his cheek, like right here. And I was just like, oh, he definitely loved me. Like in that moment, there was overwhelming love that's evident in that photo. And I'm like, wait, maybe we only need one photo. I take so many photos, especially of like my children or friends, whatever. But I'm like, maybe just having one is okay if it's the right one. But because I was able to move into a moment of like gratitude for his love and with all of the faults and with all of the toxicity and trauma and the bad decisions, there still were some really good things. And my mind can go to those, I think that's where survival turns into like thriving.
So possibly also what I'm hearing is like maybe the practice of yoga is a bridge to opening up the potential for that because you're opening up your 72,000 nadis, all your channels, and something else has potential to come through. Any movement, moving
Any movement.
yeah,
Mhm.
anytime movement moves fascia, fascia moves memory because it's moving your water, your stored water. Fascia, that physioelectric. That's why any dancing,
Mm.
any of it is so powerful to move emotion.
Mhm.
Yeah, great question, Sunny.
That's why when people grieved back in the day, there was wailing, there was using
Yeah,
of the body,
Yeah.
it was embodied, it was more than just like, a dab at the tear.
yeah, yes. And wailing, it's making me again even just think about water and the mass emotion. I know wailing has more like the sound of it, but it's pretty intense.
Yeah, it uses your whole body, it uses your breath, and it uses there's a communal energy exchange in it.
Yes.
And it- even your muscles will clench and unclench in it.
Oh
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And now if you even like remotely pull a tear up, I wouldn't call the experience even remotely close to whaling. I think it's people become runners, and
Yeah.
the people run from your like, oh God, she's crying, gone, right? Because they don't know how to sit with that. There's no such I mean, how awesome if we could bring back the community of whaling. Very, very few environments allow for that space. Sonny
Yeah.
recently had a loss, you know about mine, and there that experience was not, there was no option for whaling.
No.
No.
And I will say I've had one or two experiences with somatic breathing, and I think that is an interesting gateway that in some ways would parallel Americanizes a little bit, but would parallel the whaling just because you are using such powerful breath in your body and there's
Yes.
release and there's a kind of a detachment from the self-consciousness of, well, how do I look? Or what
Right.
am I acting weird? Is anyone going to think this is weird?
Yeah, because
I
if
mean,
you
I
really
think
get
it's
into,
so normal. I was going to say, I just think it's so normal that when we are not having that expression is when you get you've been holding it together very well.
Very much.
That's when you get all of the accolades for not just
You're so strong.
letting.
You're so strong.
Yes.
Like, I
Yep.
don't want to
That's
be
when
strong
everybody
anymore.
cheers you
Yeah.
on because you are not just falling apart, which is what we all want to do. And right, what we would love for it to be accepted that I am hurting right now.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I do not need to be holding back my tears or not just like a complete mess in my bed. And it's like, look at you, you got up today and you did this and you did that. And you're like, I don't want to, but like,
Yeah.
all right.
And we're such a productivity oriented culture
Mm-hmm.
also.
yeah, yes. Yeah, both projected and what's been inculcated in our psyche. We like to make a list for people and we'll create a little profile for you, but what we're hearing so far, and one of the things that Sunny likes to point out is I'll first say that I heard yoga, so I think physical movement. You said
Yeah.
breath work. I heard you say therapy. And this will be things that help people like nudge if they haven't tried any of these. The other thing that Sunny picked up on right away is that people have a thread of, you use the word community, but it's like some group, one, two, three, 10 girlfriends, whatever the number is, or guy friend, whatever your community is, like
Mhm.
who can bear witness with me? And
100%.
if you have someone, even just one person, and if you don't have a person, do you have a tree or a garden or a something to bear
You know what?
witness?
That's so true. And if you don't even think you have that, that is best. Go find a person. But if you really can't, make somebody up. Make up an imaginary friend. This sounds
Yeah,
crazy, but I
no,
heard Oprah on a podcast say that when she was terrified, I think she was 12, she made up an imaginary angel. I think she was forced to sleep on her grandmother's or on a porch. She wasn't let in the house for some reason, and she had to sleep outside, and she was scared. And so she made up an angel. And I was like, that's actually pretty ingenious.
very good. Yeah, very, all of
But
that.
again, it's those survival tactics
Right.
that, we know that there's something missing. And so we have to do what we have to do to make it through the next day. So, right, if it's making up an angel, it's talking and just being able to, vent to a friend or,
Journal.
Sure.
yeah.
Another one. Yeah. We have we have some pretty good crossover as we listen to stories. Why we think
Hmm.
it's important to have the list is because the physiology of trauma and the physiology of pain and the physiology of memory. So we're talking about your body's mostly water. It holds all your memory. It holds the impression. It holds your mother's memory. In your case, it holds your mother's memory, your grandmother's memory, and all of that through your mtDNA. So we come to the world with our mother's mtDNA that only girls and moms have. No, your boys, this is a very special mitochondrial DNA between mothers and daughters. The other is nuclear DNA that we share with every the father, the mother, all the children. But mothers and daughters have a very specific bloodline connection, unique, unmatched. So I always point that out and I tell people go look up and learn about mitochondria DNA, but it is a connection to the mother, even if you've ever never met your mother. And why it's important is because you collect the lineage of your bloodline on the mother's side, you also collect her story. So if you don't know her story and you wonder why you do certain things, if you are able to and you have access to people or you can Google and research, learn about your mother and your grandmother's story because you collected their stories and the nervous system and your response to trauma and your response to whatever experiences they had. So I feel like all people should consider looking into their history because our response to scenarios are both nature, nurture, environment, all of that, but it is also inherited
Mhm.
how I'm going to react to a situation. And with the field of epigenetics, the mitochondrial DNA, all the things we know about water and fascia and memory now, the public service announcement is you actually can rewrite your story now for even your daughter, because once you change your story through quantum entanglement with your daughter, she will not be the same person, and her daughter and her daughter and her son. It through quantum physics, once you change your story, their story changes. Whether you ever say it to them or not, whether she ever watches your podcast, because it's an alchemical quantum experience. Hard for people, to believe that right away. Um,
Well, I
but I
think
bet
it's
you've had
about
experiences.
the mind body spirit connection, right? If you believe that that is true, which I very much do, then those experiences imprint on us physically and physiologically in a way that then is stored and then that is passed on. So I think it makes perfect sense. And I agree, like, find out what the stories are because, again, more context brings light, brings forgiveness, brings survival, brings appreciation, brings gratitude. And also, it's just like usually really interesting. It's usually like, oh, I had no idea.
Yes. And, my mother used to say, secrets make you sick and liars never heal.
Mm.
And what I didn't know is she was an absolute truth teller, but she was also a secret keeper. And
Mhm.
I have secrets of hers that I don't know what to do with. But I mean, she told them to me on her way out. I do talk about some of them with my sister, but um, secrets do make you sick because it's an energy in the field that is stagnant.
Yeah.
And so I can tell people like I can tell a spiritual director or where I can tell I met a very skilled, and I'm going to say this because it connects. Like I met a very, very skilled family constellations person, and this is part of my direct experience in quantum entanglement. She knew nothing of my story. I had one session with her. She does my field. She talks to me a little bit. She's from Belgium. She's in Belgium. We're on a Zoom. She said, I'm going to go off camera for just a few minutes and I'm going to come back on and then tell you what I picked up. She comes back on and I'm just, innocently waiting to hear. And she says, tell me about your mom and the secrets that she's keeping. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And I said, well, and she said, and she started naming um, I won't say it here because it's not the right place, but she absolutely knows. I have immediate relief because now the secret is out,
Right.
right? I'm like, took my first breath in almost my entire life because I
Oh.
found out about the secret when I was very young because I found
Mhm.
something and I found it and then I was like, oh my God, this doesn't make sense. So I asked my grandmother and she shut me down.
Mhm.
But I had an aunt who was a gossiper and she told me everything.
Of the
So
gossipers. Thank goodness for the gossipers.
she told me everything, but I kept it to myself until I was like in my late teens, early 20s. I'm going to tell you what I found. I'm going to tell you what grandma said. I'm going to tell you what aunt said. And it was true. And she said, yeah, but you're taking that to your grave, she said. I said, okay, mom. And so this woman knew. So there's quantum entanglement. It was in the field. I have relief. She tells me about it. And then she tells me two more things. And I'm like, no, I don't think that was our family. No, no, no. And she's like, write it down. Just write it down. Anything I say, just write it down. We don't have to keep it digging at it. So I'm like, no, that's definitely not our family. Of course, I asked my father. He goes silent, yes, this is true. And this is true. And I'm like, there it was in the field. She just pulls it out of the field because she's a skilled family constellations person. And then I go physically to see her in Miami and we do a whole exercise. And it all plays out in family constellation where you can heal with strangers because someone acts as a surrogate in family constellations as a character. So, Sunny, you would play a character in my life, and Marie would play, and I would play me. But the family constellation therapist puts you in a center and then you act it all out. It's extremely healing. I had my son do it after because I figured if I'm healing my field, he's going to have that through nuclear DNA, a healing. And if I'd had asked him last year to say, "Hey, you want to try that?" He would have been like, "Mom, I'm not doing your woo woo, blah, blah,
Your
blah."
woo-woo.
But because I did it, no pressure. I was just like, "Hey, I did this." He's like, "Sure, I'll try it once." Because the healing had already happened inside of me. So that is the quantumness of you heal mom, you heal generation, 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 generation. This is not to leave out the father, but I'm talking about the empty DNA, the mitochondrial DNA, the mitochondria ATP. That's the energy in your body, and everything is energy.
So I'm wondering if this is a good segue to Tammy and how you met Marie and how the work that Marie does kind of helped one another on this becoming and healing story as well. Because I feel like Marie, you took your art and your craft and it now kind of moved itself, which was your
Yeah.
healing journey, into helping Tammy through hers. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Talk about your worst client ever. Who fought?
That is not true, or I would
No,
not
I'm
be on
pretty
the
sure it
podcast.
is.
No, it's
We had the
girl.
talk, Sonny. We had the talk. You know, the talk. The
I got
talk is,
stories.
are we the talk in any relationship? We had the talk, which is, are we a match?
Right.
Do you think we should continue? So it was that bad that we had the talk.
Um, so Tammy's brother Dennis, I adore. I met him through my best and favorite wallpaper installer. And then I started asking Dennis about his background and gosh, he had all these skills I wasn't utilizing. I was like, what else can you do? What else can you do? So now I call Dennis anytime I need anything or like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing, like help me out. He said,
I
hey,
do too.
yeah, Dennis is great. Um, he said, my sister, I think she's going to need a decorator, and it's a unique situation. Um, her partner has just been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and when she stays in Charlotte, she doesn't feel at home. She doesn't feel like herself. She doesn't want to stay longer than she needs to. Um, and I gave her your name and number. And I was like, Dennis, anyone you love, I love. Great. Bring it on. And I'll just give you the elevator pitch that my niche is I do luxury residential interior design for high performing women. So there's a reason for this. I don't work with just anyone. The reason I've niched down into high performing women is I'm very missional about my work. I strongly believe that every woman has a divine spark of beauty that's within. And when you can tap into what is that beauty and show it to her in her surroundings, reflect it back with her external, she is then empowered to evolve, to be her truest self, to be most authentic, to feel the deepest joy, to like go out into the world and do these big badass jobs. So I have a lot of lawyers and I have a lot of tech people, I have a lot of finance people. These are all women doing big important jobs, making the world a better place. So that's my little way of like, we're going to bring down the patriarchy by giving women more power. And so I need women who are already doing important things to feel great when they come home from their job, to be able to have a deep sigh of relief and feel like their very best self in their home. So the other great thing about them is they make fast decisions, they trust you, and they can usually afford what they want, which are the components to like the best client. So here Tammy has this big load. She's a big job. She's already like affecting the lives of so many women by her with her work. And now she's taken on being a full-time caretaker in a place where she doesn't feel like she's thriving. So if she doesn't feel full and like she's thriving, how can she pour herself out to help this man live and survive and thrive in
By the
his
way,
lives?
it's a good point. Yeah. He had a beautiful, he was a bachelor.
Yeah.
So everything was oriented to bachelor. So while it was beautiful for a bachelor.
Totally,
That makes sense.
100%. And
Okay.
he loved it and he was proud of it and he felt great in
He
it. But
loved
he
it.
also wanted Tammy to feel great in it. He was like, you need to feel great here too, which I just commend so much. He was such a
Yeah,
sweetheart, Tammy. And I'm so
I
grateful
know.
I got the little bit of time with him that I got because it was such a joy. He was a light.
He
Um,
was,
and
oh,
so Tammy and I met our first meeting. We did our consultation. I believe design is like dating. You have to like each other enough to spend. It's intimate, right? It's a lot of people's most valuable asset. It's you're in their bedroom, you're in their pocketbook, you're in all the things, you're in the relationship sometimes. So you want to like each other and want to see each other for the next meeting. Met and she was like, I don't really know if I want to do this. I got a lot going on. I'm a little bit resentful that I even have to embark on this project, but we've got a mold problem. We've got, nothing feels light and bright and energetically giving to me. And I was like, then we got to do it. Let's make it a place where you can take a deep breath.
so we did. And I'm a New Yorker. I like black, white, and tan. And
Great.
Marie comes in and she's like, throws this beautiful thing. I think the first time, I don't know where we were, maybe the restaurant, but somewhere. Anyway, it was color, 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 color. And I'm like, where's my tan? Where's my cream? And
Where are my neutrals?
But
yeah,
I only wanted white. She was like, I like Florida, blue sky, blue water, and everything white. I'm like, okay, we can do it. Let's do it.
and she would say, so her framing would be like, so considerate. She would be like, that hasn't been trending for like 30 years. I'm like, oh, but I love it. She's like, you can. We can incorporate it. We can, do a little piece like a square here if you want. Anyway, fast forward. One of my worst days, I think, because I had sat in the house for days. I said, all right, where's everything? We'll sit at the table. And she said, we're getting out of here. We're getting out of the house today. We're getting out of the house. And we went. And she, I'm numb, and she drove me all around in her Tesla and knew all the stores, and everybody knew her. And she's waving, but we came home with color. And
We came home with three rugs, primarily pink with blues and greens and little purple, and just, it made me so happy that she was willing to just try them.
yeah. So and it did change my mood. I mean, I could sit in there for a long time now and not be as sad. I don't know what it is about color. What is it? Because I'm going to put that down because
Oh,
truly
yeah. Yeah,
color it did flip a switch in me.
it
And I don't
moves,
know.
it moves emotion. So just like the water and the fascia, so
Hmm.
color is the visual equivalent of that. And even going outside, part of why going outside is so beneficial to our health is that we get a spectrum of light hitting our eyeballs and hitting the back of our eyeballs that we don't get sitting inside. So part of the mood and the physiological changes, you'll get healthier. If you're sick, go outside. Part of it used to be before we had such high-tech hospitals, people would have to go outside to get better. Well, some of that's
Yes.
the fresh air, and some of that's the sunlight, and then some of that's sound and the breeze and the birds and like all of that. But there's a whole philosophy and psychology around color theory and what color does to our energy and our mood. So, like, you think of bright yellow sunshine, that's going to be highly energetic, it's going to be a stimulant. Think of, reds can be intense and they can promote feelings of passion, feelings of rage, feelings of fire. Greens and blues, you're talking serenity, you're talking trust, you're talking um, feelings of compassion, feelings of soothing. Pinks are going to be your feminine energy. They're going to make you feel like you're more in touch with Mother Nature, with your divine feminine. Um, and then I mean, it's so funny, Tammy, because I love color. My gorgeous, great taste 23-year-old daughter only does neutrals. So she's like you, black, brown, tan, gray, white, off-white, khaki. And she looks gorgeous all the time. And her apartment is beautiful, but there's little bits of peachy pink salmons kind of in that like center color behind you, Sunny, that bring a softness to all of that neutral
I was
pink.
thinking of Sunny behind it. It's like a
Yeah.
beautiful, because I even remember in some way I thought when you got on the phone with Mel, because she would get on the phone with Mel and do talks, and he was even like more. He was like navy blue, white, or khaki. He did nothing else. So even that we were a match in that way. But for her, as getting on the phone with us at different periods because we were also remote customers. We were in Florida trying to get him back to baseline. So she was triple goddess in that she even had a remote client that she could adjust for, even though we were a color that was worse.
Oh
And then the
gosh,
Bootleg.
other thing about
100%.
color is it looks different in every light in every city across the world. So white in Florida doesn't look the same in Charlotte. The
Right.
gray behind you isn't going to look the same here. So you have to really have a sense and intuition and then like some training behind how color theory works.
Well, it worked on me, and it's another great thing that has not come up in our talks. That was a great question, Sonny. I'm going to keep going on your themes, and just because you're on a roll with your questions.
Well, I know that you said that Marie also had a bit of kind of like reading of, I don't know how you described it, Tammy, in the beginning, that she kind of picks up on your energy and
Yes.
this is
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So I don't know how you do that either. I just know that the way, at least in my direct experience with you, right from the get-go, interpreting my feedback, because my language with her initially um, was not good. It wasn't kind. It wasn't soft. It was, think of my alpha female and then layer on the stress of Mel. It was like off the chart alpha. Even my brother would pull me aside and he's like, I'm like, how are you? You know, and he could see. And I was like, I can't be anything else. Like, and I wasn't satisfied with anything because I couldn't help Mel. So I was like, can't fix him. I don't give two shits about the color. I don't just go, I don't care. I didn't care about the design. And it wasn't even until the rug thing that I even remotely cared about it. And I would hear people say, like, you got like such a nice, generous thing to be able to do this. I'm like, but I don't care. I don't have Mel. He's not going to see it. Who cares? And she was able to move me through that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really a special situation. Um, I have discovered, so I've worked under top interior designers in Charlotte for about 8 years before I launched my own firm in 2022. Um, and what I've discovered is that my superpower is really being able to figure out what will make a woman's heart sing. So I'll have clients that come to me, they go, I don't know my style. I'm terrified I'm going to make a mistake. I'm going to do something wrong. I'm going to get bored of it. I don't know. And somehow I'm able to key in on what will spark joy for her. I think it's a mix of training and intuition and empathy. Um, but honestly, it's a little bit like I also don't know. I have two sets of clients where there's like three friends each. Like one referred me to the next, referred me to the next. And one of my favorite compliments from one of those women is like, thank you for getting me. Like, my friend Caroline has this taste, and my friend Bree has this taste, and you saw me. You didn't assume that I am like them, even though they're my very best friends in the world, and you gave me my own thing. So I'm very big on like, when I say luxury interior design, that does not mean I'm going to pick you the most expensive thing. I do not think the most expensive thing is typically ever the best thing. That's part of coming from wine country. The most expensive wine is probably not the best bottle on the menu. So, knowing that, my definition of luxury is what is the most custom for you? What is the special thing that your neighbor's not going to have because you didn't get it at a Pottery Barn? Like, what is the little trim, the little tassel, the little thing that you makes you smile? Like, that's what I want for women. I want them to walk in and be like, that's my little like leopard on the wall, or like whatever it is that feels like me. And so somehow I've been able to really pick women where they will let me in enough that I can go, if you don't know your style, I can help you figure it out. And my largest client, it was over $1 million project. It was in Southern Home. She's lovely. And she came to me and I said, I'm going to develop a workshop just for her so she feels confident. So I have a Discover Your Style workshop where I can go through that with a client. And we identify three keywords that can be our true north. So if your word is, timeless, whimsical, zen, We can look at each component in a room and go, is this going to stand up to timeless whimsical zen? Does it hit one or all three of those benchmarks? And then know that we're basing our design not just on feelings, but on facts.
Yeah. There's another thing that you did, which took away all of my normal MO. So I like things done yesterday, not today, yesterday. And if it can't be done yesterday, I'm going to find someone else. I'm a yesterday person, which I know is a thing, not greatness, but is the thing. I also, so you, that's a main thing, like fast. You
Yeah.
have three things you say you can't. Anyway, she took away all the things that I needed, and she has this rule that you can say it because I'm
You
not
can have
saying it very well.
fast or good or cheap because that's what people want. Pick two. You only get two. You don't get all three. You can either have it be
Less
fast and good, but
expensive.
it's going to be expensive, or you can have it be cheap and good, but it's going to take forever. Or like that's the formula. You don't get all three.
Yeah. And
You got to
once
pick your
she said
priorities.
that, yeah, I had to make choices, which I don't because I like having everything. And so it was like, you can have it this way. And
Yeah.
it made me become a more patient person because I really, really wanted something. I couldn't get it fast. Not when you get it custom, you can't. So it was like, oh, like, man, it really,
Mine is not a
But you knew if
fast.
it showed up, you were gonna love it.
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
But
Hmm.
I was like, can't we find it somewhere? Can't you? No, 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 no. And it taught me a lot about the whole project taught me patience. But what would your mother say, do you think, right now about the work that you're doing? How would she describe?
Oh, my mother, there's a lot I don't remember about her, and I hate that so much because your memory fades and, there's no videos, there's no photographs, there's just so little. But when I think back on what I know about her, she's a really creative person. So she was a voracious reader. She would read out loud to my dad and I. So I have a real love of reading from her, instilled in me from her. But then we had a really big county fair in Santa Rosa. It was like a big deal. There was a big, 4-H community, and it's such a birthplace of so much organic, lush. Like I was very granola before that was like in and bougie. I was like, oh, they made me drink kefir. Gross. Well, now that's like $1 million at Whole Foods. Um, but she decided she'd learn how to knit. She wouldn't just learn how to knit. She got a spinning wheel, and the family friends that I mentioned from before I was born, they had sheep on their property. She would collect the wool from the sheep. She would spin it on a spinning wheel into yarn, and she would knit that yarn. And her first time entering an Afghan in the county fair, she won like the blue ribbon or the grand prize.
Oh,
So she was good with her hands. She
she
was
was a
thoughtful.
designer.
She was a designer, and I didn't even know design was like a thing. Like I've done it my whole life just for
I
fun.
mean,
I
talk
didn't even
about
know it was a
organic.
job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that
I think she'd
interesting?
be really delighted.
Mm,
So
hmm.
this kind of takes me to another question. What is something that you are most proud of yourself that you can take from the loss of your mother? Like, what do you think got instilled in you because you dealt with such a traumatic thing at such a young
Definitely faith. I've faith has been a strong part of my life ever since. And I've definitely gone through periods of doubt, like, oh, is this all made up? This is ridiculous. What a stupid story. And every time I go through those periods, I go back to that experience by that pool of sensing the divine, sensing that presence of like, got a story, you're gonna be okay, I got you. Like there is more. And I'm a big believer in like a placebo effect. So even if I'm wrong, I'm kind of okay with that. Like I'm kind of like great, it's working for me. So faith has carried me through lots of struggles. And anytime you can tap into something bigger than yourself, whether it's a faith community or whether it's a mission or whether it's a sense of purpose, uh, I think that it is so powerful.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, some real nuggets in there. Faith. I'm going to
age?
just read back for anybody's that's listening and, to the first part of the story where Marie shares about things and strategies she did after experiencing the loss of her mom at 9 and then 10, actually watching her become sick at 9 and then 10. So yoga, we talked about movement, color, community, breath work, bearing witness, letting someone sit with
Mhm.
someone, make up a friend, which I think is great. Make an imaginary because it's all real, right? Everything is real and nothing is real at the same time. Journal, faith, those are some real good nuggets. What is your daughter like? What's her interest in what you do? And how do you see any of yourself, your mother, and your daughter?
Oh gosh, no one's ever asked me that question. That question's gonna make me cry, Tammy.
Mhm.
And haven't thought about it, but I love the question and I will think about it. My daughter is this like gorgeous, creative thing. She danced for 15, 17 years. She started at age 2. She stopped at 17. She was a classically trained ballet dancer. Beautiful lines. Um, Intensely creative, but all about fashion. Finds interior design so boring. Really good at it. I had her start working in design. We had a retail store at my last job, the one before I left to start my own firm. And so we had 3 retail stores actually. And I had her start working at 14 and a half because I wanted her to have a strong work ethic. But also it helped her be around lots of things, not just pretty retail things, but also bookkeeping. I trained her in some bookkeeping, design work, assisting. So she's got a great eye and a great sense and zero interest in interior design, but loves fashion. Um, I think definitely thinking back to your question, that creative thread must come through my mother, right? Like the spinning of the yarn and the making
I
things.
mean,
Like, we're
right.
big crafters. We like things with our hands. We like a sticker. We like a making a knotted keychain. Like we like making a poster. Like journaling with colored pencils and
Even
uh,
your nails, like even
yeah, we go
every
do
time
this together.
she comes with these ornate, like they're pieces of art. I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, yeah,
And I was just
everything
reading
is
how it's not in
expressed.
anymore. Only like nude minimal nails are now in for 2026. I'm like, I can't give it up. Like this is my thing. I told my daughter. We go get fancy nails.
Yeah, 100%, because it's authentic to you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a
Yeah. She's my
signature.
biggest sense of like, it's funny. Again, I love your question, Tammy, because I don't remember laughing with my mom. I remember childhood being very serious. There was no laughter. There was fighting. There was stress. There was reading of books. There was cooking good food. But I don't remember laughter and I can't hear the sound of her laughter. But my daughter can make me laugh like nobody else. Like I belly laugh till I'm crying. And that's got to come through my mother too.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Fantastic. Sunny, do you have a like a kind of a wrap up question? Because I can't believe how quickly I think there's a nugget in there too about being a businesswoman because I know your story about working for someone and then having the courage to go out on your own and all of your storyline of growth and becoming tells me that you're doing the work on the nervous system to because your nervous system is what allows your reptilian brain to say, I'm going to take the next risk and I'm going to take the next risk. And you have to have all those things you listed to be able to get, okay, so I'm baseline this level of risk and I'll work for this woman for X amount of years. And then you do work on you, you're becoming, and then you're set, your nervous system takes an upgrade and you're willing to take another risk. So then now you're here, successful businesswoman on your own, cover of magazines. And so your nervous system is here. There's another, what's this next risk that's going to be your next becoming? Because you've already mastered. For all women listening, every time you take a risk, pat yourself on the back because you've done enough internal work to reset your amygdala, your reptilian brain to say, oh, this part of me feels safe. I've reached this level in my, I'm ready to go to the next thing. I'm ready to go. Ready to be the student. I'm ready to get my master's in public health. You're going to have your next
Ah,
thing,
yeah.
right? We're going to do the podcast.
Yeah.
You're doing enough work on self, and I'm pointing to the back of my head because you're like your lower brain and your amygdala reptilian doesn't want you to do that. It wants you to stay born level safety because that's where your set point is. And it takes masses amount of self-care, self-love, internal reflection, all the things you said you did to even just do the next thing, go to college. the next get married. Oh, okay, have a kid, all the things. So what's your next thing?
I'm very challenged by this question, and I say that in the most grateful and good way, complimentary way. Because I thought my next thing would be, I just turned 54 this week. I thought my next thing would be at 60.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. I also said on Instagram, this is the year I stop announcing my age on my posts. Nobody needs to know anymore. But yeah, here I say it on podcast. I I would like to write, I'd like to write a book at 60. I'd like to write my family story. And I don't know if that looks like fiction or nonfiction, but I was really struck by you saying, Tammy, like, find out the stories of your mother and your grandmother. So my dad is still alive, but he was, it's not funny. He was hit by a bus and dragged 80 feet a few years ago. It just seems like he has so many improbable like things. That's why I kind of am like, who gets hit by a bus? And anyway, he health wise, he's great. He's still very active. He's a Pilates instructor. But cognitively, not all the memories are there. So when I go to ask for stories about my mom or things I don't know or stories about my childhood, it's just not accessible. He was also adopted out of his family of origin. I never met that grandfather. I've been on a Zoom call with a couple of the uncles like one time, but they're still alive. My Chinese grandparents are no longer alive, but I have a few aunts that are still alive. I have a cousin. And so I think that the work for me is in excavating those family stories that I don't have.
Yeah, because it's gonna the healing, right? The alchemy in that, and for your daughter and for all the
Yeah,
grandchildren
that's right.
you'll never see because the lineage and the quantum is
That's
there.
right. Yeah.
Such a huge thing. This is becoming a trend in our podcast, and I'm not sure why it's happening. When I say it out loud, Sonny, you're going to remember. Did you pick up
Okay.
what she was saying about when she's going to do this book?
Oh, yeah.
So what's happening? Tell us about Sarah and even your friend who's like, when I turn X, I'm going to do this. You want to tell that backstory of that?
Well, I maybe I'll just kind of jump into what we have been picking up on is that, right, people kind of will continue to set goals for, right, by 60, I will do this. And Tammy's like, well, why not just do it now?
That's right. Tammy's right. Do it
Yeah,
yesterday. It's really what Tammy's thinking.
do it
And she's right.
yesterday.
And she's right. And I agree with her. And I think that's true in business too. I'm like, when things go badly, like when Tammy and I had that conversation, or which turned out great. But when things are challenging or things feel like failure, great, let's fail faster. Let's get the mistakes behind us because then we're not going to do that mistake again. I've made so many mistakes. And every time I'm kind of like horrified and then also equally parts like, great, that's never going to happen again. I got it behind me. So, like, just do the thing faster.
You
I
just
mean, it's
start
so
it.
funny because since we've been talking about it, like I was talking to somebody recently and they're like, yeah, by my next birthday, I want to learn how to swim. And I said, then just take a swim
Just do
class. I
it.
said,
Just do
just
it. Yeah.
sign up tomorrow. I was
Yeah.
like, you don't have to wait a year to figure out how to take swim lessons. I was
That's
like,
right.
just sign up for a class.
And
I
I
was like,
usually
talk to
start,
them all
like,
the
I love New
time.
Year's resolutions. It's so funny because I love a goal. And I usually start them in like November because then I feel like I'm ahead of it. Like, if by January 15th I failed, well, I've already done it for 2.5 months then. Who cares?
That's great. And I'm only saying it because it's come up enough now. You're either the third or fourth person, but it's not just mine. There's a Sarah, as our friend that we interviewed, who had lost her husband and had a beautiful home in Wiltshire in England and always wanted to be in Wales on the water, which is,
Yeah,
you know,
we'll be in
up the road.
Wales.
And she said in 5 years she was going to
Yeah,
do that. And her therapist said, why would you wait 5 years for something that you could actually do tomorrow? And within a month, she had done it all.
that's great.
And
I love
and
that.
and taking walks by the water in Wales with her dogs. So it was so it hit me. I've heard that story from her before, but it just hit me again. And why it is coming up. It came up in another one of our other guests. I forget what she was trying to do. She's trying to do something, and we told her the same thing. Like there's
Mhm.
something that's showing up about waiting. And I don't know if it's like this nervous system thing or if it's a time thing or I don't know what it is, but it is becoming a pattern of,
Well, I think for me, I feel like in some cases there's only so much self-improvement I can handle at one time, or I'm gonna not do it well. And right now I'm so focused on building this business. I've been in business for 4 years. I feel like I'm a baby in business, and I think it takes 10 years to really be good. And so I'm really focused on just doing projects I'm really proud of and that are energizing and where I can impact women's lives. But then I have this other part that's like, but then the next chapter is like, oh, I do want to do this like one thing, but I'm like, I need people to not die before I'm ready to do it, right? So I need to go get the stories now.
I feel like don't they've created like apps and ways to like interview your family for these kinds of storytelling
Yeah.
experiences. Like I know that
Mhm.
I even had like a journal I gifted my mom that it's like, Mom, tell me your story.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
so it has prompts in there for them to kind of just like fill out so that you can pull together some of the stories. So maybe that's something you can start with, just like, you know what, like, I don't know, once a month, I'm going to call a family member
Yeah,
and
I think that's what
start
it takes.
getting, yeah,
Mhm.
start collecting the stories.
And now with AI, it can all be transcribed and everything. But I,
Hmm.
I do feel like, as opposed to like giving somebody an assignment, please write in a journal for me,
Right.
it needs to be a one-on-one connection. They need to
Hmm.
be part
And
of.
cousins. I have cousins that
Yeah.
I was showing Sunny not too long ago. On my mom's side, I went back 8 generations, and on my dad, I think I'm at 6. But it was through different cousins, and we were all, my sister and I, over the winter got obsessed with it, and so we have a pretty good handle on how far back. But the story is
Mhm.
what I don't. I have the name, I have Linda, and I can go to my great grandmother and just and the patterns, like. I can see wholeheartedly the patterns I've repeated. Can you see patterns you've repeated, Sunny?
Yes. Yeah.
Can you see patterns you've repeated, Marie, in your mom's story?
Less so my mom's than my dad's because I blame my dad for so much more than my mom.
Hmm.
And I'm less familiar with my mom's story. And I will say, Tammy, like my nervous system gets flooded when I am talking to an aunt about my mom or hearing a story. Or she'll look at me and there's a look in her eyes because she can see my mom in me. And it's the only time you see, and it's really overwhelming. And so I
Yeah.
think part of the reason I thought, like, oh, that can wait until I'm 60 is because I felt not ready to embrace that overwhelm of emotion on my
Mm.
nervous system.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point. As we talk about vulnerability and we talk about the degree that you can access or the degree that you can become intimate with someone is the degree you give them access into you. And if we're not at a place to give access, there's no intimacy. It's talking about the weather and your mom liked, right, like cooking or whatever. It's not the deeper layer of,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, the story.
The store, I mean, I used to say that my family is like the Joy Luck Club without the dead baby. And I don't know, maybe there was a dead baby in it, but it's just it's so much intensity and it's such a different everything's different. The culture is different, the superstition is different, the immigrating on a boat is different, the like mother-in-law locking you in a closet and throwing fireworks at you. Like it's all this weird stuff that is so foreign to me that I'm like, I gotta get my brain ready to
Mm.
wrap around it.
Hmm.
Yeah, and just like same for me. Like I didn't know what I didn't know until I had the family constellations, and then I'm
Right.
like, what?
Whoa. Yeah. Yeah.
And could see how it's going to repeat if I didn't stop it.
Yeah.
In my
Hmm.
in my life and my sister and my yeah. And then my son went and he's like, "Did you know about?" I'm like, "I just heard." But
Yeah.
because
Now,
she
I
picked it
will
up in his
say
field.
the one pattern to go back and answer your question again that I do see with my daughter is that because I was undermothered in some ways and have some abandonment issues because of her death, I do tend to overmother my daughter. Like I give her everything I wish I'd had. And sometimes that's definitely not great for her. It's overindulgent, it's coddling, it's like, oh, I just want everything to be like devoid of suffering for you, which does not build resilience. But then I'm also of the mindset like we're all gonna hit our suffering places. None of
Yeah.
us really like get through it unscathed. But I do want her to be built for being able to weather those storms.
It's the only reason why I did family constellation is because of my overgiving.
Oh,
It,
interesting.
it's the only reason, and it's the reason why this is the seminal book for our podcast. I don't know if you've seen any of it, but this is, if you have not read this book or I haven't told you about this book,
Mm-mm.
it's called Mother Hunger.
Okay.
And it's on a lot of our podcasts. I'll post it again, but it's how adult daughters can understand and heal from lost nurturance, protection, and guidance.
Mhm.
So, why we talk about women, why we talk about mtDNA, why we talk about mother hunger, because it's the core of all relationships.
Yeah.
It's the core of it's the core. And so if the core needs attention and you have the courage to do it in this lifetime,
Yeah.
the love that you give to yourself, the parenting and the co-parenting and the satiation, if you can, of the mother hunger that we all have. All people have this. Women to a different degree because of mtDNA. If you can come up with things to help satiate this pain, this hunger, you're healing the world. Not only are you healing your bloodline, why are you healing the world? People say, "Oh my God, how can you say you're healing the world?" Because we all come from the original mother.
Right.
Somebody started this bloodline that
Right.
created the next one and the next one, and then all of us. So through the bloodline, we're all related.
Mhm.
And so we all have this, we call it also, we have these red threads, the red thread of the original mother, the original grandmother that we all come from. So when you do the work of healing yourself, especially mother hunger, you're healing the world. You're healing the world. So we have this book. It's on the website. She's a it's a wonderful thing. There's lots of prompts in there. It's not like I read it instant, like within a like couple of hours because it resonated so much. Some people can only read a chapter. We've heard guests say like I started and I couldn't keep going. Like I've got to, that's a dose book. You got to do it in doses.
Hmm.
And so yeah, I hope and give it to your daughter also because um and you can give it to your sons because this is not a book this is like my son will read this and be like, yeah, my mom did this and this, and I would say, I didn't do that. You did do that. And we had to come to an agreement about giving because I was an overgiver. And in family constellations, he said my mom and he told the therapist she anticipates every one of my needs. I don't ever have to, I mean, I don't, there's nothing that she anticipates. So I've not done, and I thought that was like the best thing I could have ever done in life.
Right. Yeah.
And now that I can't, now that I stopped, we went through this period of like, this is going to hurt you and it's going to hurt me because you're
Yeah.
going to call me like, hey, mom, da 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 da. And I'm going to be like, you're going to have to figure that one out, which never came out of my mouth. I'd be like, let me fix it. Or figuring out a way I can help him. So now, if you want to go down that road of like, why am I overgiving? I want his love.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose it. He's my world. So it was projecting my mother hunger onto him.
Mhm.
And then I had to say, like, if I didn't give to him, if I didn't overgive to him, what
Right.
would the relationship look like? And right
Right.
now we're with our new baby shoes figuring it out, because
Mhm.
it is different. It is absolutely different. It's actually better. It's harder. I think it's hard. He's not wholly sharing, but his um, partner, who he's had for 8 or 9 years, like it's changing that because it's changing our relationship. Like, I mean, imagine having me as the mother-in-law. Like, I was in everything. 'Cause
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, way over the top. So I had to pull back. It's been and it actually is like giving me the creeps on my skin right now, but it's wholly necessary because I robbed him of self-regulation, co-regulation, all the things that if I didn't like anticipate and swoop in, he would have figured it out. I mean,
Yeah.
he graduated college, he's high functioning, he's thriving, he's got a beautiful family in Denver, but there's things that he missed out on because I didn't allow for the space. So my grandchildren
Relatable.
probably be a little better maybe then, but yeah, but it was the intent
Yeah,
was
right. You as a
healing.
grandma, those kids are never gonna want for anything. She'll be like, I made all of their shoes ready to go for the next 15 years. And, I've started pickling all these things. You guys will never have food that you can't eat that came fresh grown off of this organic soil that I created.
I did it with everyone. Like my bestie Tiffany said, like she clothed my daughter in the first 6 months of her life till she from 0 to 5 years old. I mean, I literally like by the time she's this age, she'll be wearing this, and I had it 0 to 5. I mean, but it was every relationship. There's that element of, and it was even in how I cared for Mel. There's a book all the way to the river. Like you're gonna die with this person if you don't figure out how to not care. And I anticipate one of his needs because that was what I could do.
Yeah, that was the role.
Yeah, so it's a thing. It's a thing, overgiving and wanting to, but figuring out why you're overgiving is the arc of the discovery. Because the giving is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
So where's the giving coming from is my question to myself now.
Yeah.
Where's the giving coming from?
So,
Good.
Marie, for us, the Mother Hunger book is something that we like to leave with our listeners as kind of hey, this is really a great book to dive into. Again, whether you can sit down and go through it in one day, or if you're like me and right, I got to take it in doses because it just like so many things start percolating in my brain that I'll be like, okay, I need a break so I can really think about this, talk about it with people. Like, I just read this chapter and all she talked about was this, and now I feel like this. So, for you, is there a movie, a song, a book, a scripture, a something that you kind of really hold on to the toughest days, the best days, whatever it might be? Is there something that you would like to leave with the listeners as like your go-to thing when you really are in your feelings?
Oh gosh, my go-to thing when I'm really, so I'm going to answer it in two parts. My go-to thing when I'm really in my feelings lately has been journaling. It has been organizing, doing a brain dump. And so I have a goal for myself is just like write a sentence, and that's never just a sentence. It's always a paragraph and sometimes a page and sometimes more. But I'm doing it for two reasons. One, mental clarity. And two, as Tammy can attest to, in design, there's a lot of problems. It's complicated, and there's a lot of room for human error because there's still a lot of humans involved. It's not a click Pottery Barn's website and like order and then like put the pillow on the couch and you're done. It's like hundreds of vendors and people handling logistics that can mess it up.
Mhm.
So part of my journal process is like what's going on in my business that is a problem that I can like provide a system or a process to make it not a problem in the future. So two parts. So the journaling for both mental and practical reasons. And then when you mentioned like a book like Mother Hunger, the one that came to mind because it was a childhood favorite, but then when I became a mother, I used to reread it once a year, which is Little Women. I just feel like every time I read it, there were these life lessons in it that I would go, that resonates. That's hitting me now in a new way or a new chapter, and it's just so beautifully written. So,
We'll put it in. We put in all
Yeah.
the nuggets. We'll put in all the little things because we
And
love.
that's what I just want to say for people like me that I am not a big journaler. Like I don't like how my handwriting looks and things like
oh yeah,
that.
yeah.
So my I
I'm doing it on my laptop. I'm doing it in a Google Doc.
yeah. So somebody else I know, they do voice recordings.
Right.
So they will right either transcribe it or just
But
do a
here's what I'm
video
going
of
to say.
themselves.
The
Yeah, or just like make a
physiology of
voice
it is
memo.
different. Your brain
Hmm.
processes differently when you write than when you speak. And it
Yeah.
processes even more differently when I'm not physically writing either because I don't have it in me and I'm actually not a good journaler. I go in and out of it over the years and but I've been doing it pretty consistently. Although lots of my entries start with I got to do this more consistently since November. But I'm just doing it in a Google document to keep it as an easy habit, like a low
Hmm.
friction low barrier to entry.
So are you doing verbal, Sunny?
Um, I am not just I'm same. Like I've got, 1,400 journals that I've started in and they all have different prompts and things in them. But like I said, someone else that's close to me, they deal with arthritis. And so typing and writing
Oh
gets
yeah. No.
physically,
Too hard.
taxing. So what she has kind of really come to enjoy, because she does love to write, like she loves a good pen, but again, and just the taxing on her body turned into like, okay, I love doing this, but now it makes me hurt, but I still want to have that release. So again, she just started creating videos that she would send herself, like right at the end of the
Oh,
day.
that's
She
great.
would like, yeah, like
Oh,
she would do her
cute.
meditation, and then she would just like sit there, prop her phone up, and she'd be like, all right, like let's talk. And she would just create videos, because like even sometimes she'd be like, oh my gosh, I was talking to myself about that. And she sent me one of her videos that like, related to a conversation we were having. And so again, like she'll just be like, yeah, like that's her way to still have her journaling moment, but
That's
just
great.
doing it in a different manner. Yeah.
Very interesting. I love the video of self. So that's another, we're giving the listeners a lot of great things. That's kind of like our wrap-up question, which is, your recommendations. Do you have any final thoughts about what you'd want to say to anyone listening? Because who's listening, we talk about your voice and resonance, and my voice, your voice, Sunny's voice in the quantum is going to catch someone else's higher soul that is going to be brought to your message. They could be in your exact shoes. It could be businesswoman, it could be wife, it could be mother of a daughter, it could be a woman or a child who've lost them. It could be any of the things that somehow leads them there. And so, what would you want to leave as kind of like Marie Matthews' signature?
Well, I would love for it to be Marie Matthews' signature, but I'm actually going to quote a very dear friend and give her credit. My friend Tamara Perk has a business called Story Now. She's a story expert. Two things. One is she always says, and I always quote her, community builds capacity. So when we come together, good things happen. It builds
Hmm.
resilience, builds capacity.
Yeah.
The other thing is, for a while, she was a producer of a social justice television program. And she would go and she would interview people. And what she discovered is how story transforms you.
Hmm.
And saying your story out loud, she told me this one story about interviewing women who'd been sex trafficked and had been rescued out of another country. And when they told their story, they saw their own resilience, they saw their own strength, they saw their own overcoming, they saw their own becoming. And
Hmm.
saying it out loud to another person is transformative. So I would just encourage people, tell your story.
Yeah, that's great.
And is there any part of your story that you maybe wanted to speak on, or do you think you got it all out before we begin our wrap up?
Brought it all out.
Good. It's good. We do send a follow-up, how do you feel after? Because it's part of I can tell you after, so we're not using up the time here, but it's part of the whole program that Sunny's in, and we want to evaluate, like, did narrative medicine actually impact you?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Well, thank you all again so much for joining us on our Becoming podcast. And thank you, Marie, so much for sharing with us your story. And can't wait to see what happens with your design business and your book to come. We are so excited to continue sharing stories of women and their healing processes. And again, I think the quote that we ended on was just so beautiful about how much we can find in ourselves when we are able to share our stories. As Tammy always says, our voices have energy, they have healing powers. So, again, be sure to continue to follow us on YouTube and on Spotify as we continue through my becoming story, which is finishing my master's program and continue to heal women just through our stories, because we all have one, as it was said in the beginning. So, thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing you again on our next story.
Bye. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.